Road racing returns to the Highline Racing League in grand fashion. Welcome back to Chicago, but this time around, it's not an oval. Instead, it'll be the twists and turns of the Grant Park Street Circuit. 1 hour of action coming at you in just a few moments' time. 20 drivers have registered and qualifying has concluded. You're watching the Right Turn Grand Prix here in the Highline Racing League. I'll be your host for tonight's broadcast. I'm David Croyt, commentating and producing. And tonight's going to be a completely different tone than what we've seen racing-wise since Season 16. We have not seen road course racing ever since Season 17. We didn't see it for the majority of Season 16 either. It's been a long while since we had the chance to take the Highline Racing League back to the left and right turns. Some of our defending road course winners, of course, have come back. The last time, the only exception was last year and last season in Montreal. Lucas Lodato is the last road course winner to date, and now he's got a chance to, of course, collect the checkered flag once again. Starting grid has been assembled, so it's about time we take a look down at the starting grid as it comes into formation. 39 predicted laps on the table tonight, and drivers are now putting themselves in line. Tonight, Ramirez is, of course, one of those drivers who's been strong at the road courses as well. He's one of the first to line up. Let's go through that starting grid before we get things going here from the Windy City. First and foremost, lining up on the pole position. Well, I think everyone could have expected that it would be Lucas Lodato inside of row number one. He's got the pole, and with them will be Scott Wheeler in second. Top two drivers, veterans who have shown finesse on the twists and turns. No matter the situation, Lodato is coming in as the race-winning favorite. Perhaps he's got the highest chance of getting the job done now, especially with that pole position in his clutch. Of course, you got second place in Scott Wheeler, the two-time champ, up to second place. Then we got Alan Cunman, the two-time race winner, finding himself in third. Chad Winstead will be P4 tonight. He's coming through with yet another opportunity, another solid finish. He's put himself up in the podium multiple times in the last three races as well. And he got fifth place just beyond the confines. It's Tyler Hampton, his best road course start in his Highline Racing League career. Scott Zellner, the all-time winningest driver, looking for what could be number 19 today. He's going to be starting in sixth with seventh place. Then there being Dawson Buchanan, and the rookie is beside Dylan Pote, who's in the number 31. You got ninth place, and that's going to be Caleb Morrissey with Matt Muir in 10th, and the 11th spot will then and there go to the number 48 of Jamie McKee. Brad Kress will start in 12th, with 13th place being Adam Bozzi and Roberto Ramirez being in the 14th position. P15 is going to be Matt Rodriguez, and you got Austin Bloom in 16th. 17th place will then be Terry Brooks. Jason Harris will be in 18th. The final two drivers on the starting grid tonight in what has been our smallest field this season, Kenny Brooks in the number 54 and Jacob Hall in the number 76. 20 drivers have shown up to Grant Park to battle in the twists and turns. This is your starting lineup for the Right Turn Grand Prix, and we are moments away from bringing the field to green in Chicago. This track is almost a figure eight. Not a lot of chances these stock cars get to go here. In the real world, they only come once a year. And in the virtual realm, this is the first time ever the Highline Racing League has taken to the track in Illinois. That isn't an oval anyway. We went to Chicagoland, in which Alan Cunman collected its first win of the season, defending race winner Caleb Morrissey, who was second last time we went to the state of Illinois. Maybe a chance to back that up, but tonight multiple of his teammates will start ahead of him, including Scott Wheeler there in P2. But he'll have to fend off against the driver I think everyone expects to come away with the victory. That's Lucas Lodato. The number 7 is the odds-on favorite, but that does not mean that there won't be any chance for a spoiler. Multiple of the drivers in this picture have won in the road courses before. Chad Winstead, he's gotten the job done. He got it done last in season 14. And same goes for Roberto Ramirez. Road course victory for him all the way back. Winstead won in Mid-Ohio. It was Ramirez who won in Sonoma. Those two are drivers to keep an eye out for. While Ramirez did not have the best of qualifying runs, Winstead is up there, and he's going to find himself alongside the best in the business here. Of course, Lucas Lodato, still the odds-on favorite for tonight's race. Emma Ox in the chat, 13th place is where Adam Bozzi will reside. He's with a few of the solid drivers that we mentioned who might have a chance to go out there and fight for a top 5 finish. It's the narrowest street circuit in sim racing. The walls are the limit. There is no gravel. There is no runoff. You make a mistake, you're going to pay for it, and everyone else around you is going to pay double. So you better not make a mistake because you're going to punish everyone for it. Lucas Lodato going to bring the field to green this time by. Scott Wheeler right beside, Lucas Lodato up and in front. Green flag's gonna fly for the first time in Highline Racing League history here in Chicago. 60 minutes on the table, and we are green, led by defending road course winner, Lucas Lodato up ahead. In the opening minute and a half of racing, well, the distance has made it clear enough. It is now Lucas Lodato leading the way with Allen coming in second and Scott Wheeler there in third as they're going to come ahead now as it's time for lap number 2. 39 laps are estimated for tonight's race, but that may change based, of course, upon what comes down to strategy. We might see drivers coming to pit road multiple times, although that's very unlikely based on what we've seen beforehand at our road course races. Usually these races are set up for a full tank of fuel to get you half the distance. You go down to pit road at about the 50% mark, which would be tonight, maybe lap 19 or 20, and you go all the way from there, which I think is the intention for everyone here. No reason to go in multiple other times with the exception of damage, but the majority of the field, ironically, has given us a pretty clean start. We haven't seen any significant errors made, and these drivers look to be very content with where they're running. Not going to be seeing any of that over-aggressive attitude, but that also comes with this being a smaller field. The most dedicated drivers coming out tonight. Chicago, well, we have never seen it before on the schedule, so maybe some drivers coming in with no experience, and that's the problem, which you might see some strong drivers at the back of the field. Right now, Roberto Ramirez has made his way up, but qualifying, if anything, indicated he did not have experience here. Starting in 14th tonight, he's up to 8th already, and he's turned up the pace to get up to the likes of Scott Zellner and Caleb Morrissey. Start to meddle now with the middle of the Four Horsemen crew. Ramirez is going to be a threat to be reckoned with all night long. So long, of course, as he just keeps himself together here. A clean car is going to be a dream car tonight, and it looks like as Ramirez gets away from Caleb Morrissey, there's a little bit of a shuffle now going on between the number 6 and the 31 further on back. Now, there's no contact just yet, but the closer these drivers get, well, the bundle is going to be that much more extreme. 56 minutes remaining on the clock here, and time will tell, of course, who's up in front at the tail end. Morrissey right now coming off the back of his most successful 3-race stretch since season 15. Two-time winner in season 15, finally getting back to victory lane after a year and a half. Caleb Morrissey kept us waiting for that one, but at long last he got there, and that's what made it all the more enticing to see that Chicagoland was not the be-all end-all of his season. Maybe in any other circumstance you might have imagined that Caleb Morrissey wouldn't go out there and fight for a win. win. Season 16 and 17, both he was practically irrelevant in the race-winning conversation, aside from one or two events where he was able to grab the lead on strategy and finesse. But recently, we've seen a little bit of a Caleb Morrissey resurgence. He's running in 9th. He had himself a top 5 in the race in between his intermediate successes in Iowa. He was 2nd in Chicagoland despite wrecking under green, and even still came away with the victory just last week. There's no quitting this number 6 team all of a sudden, and it looks like after taking 2 seasons on the chin, well, he's going to turn around and pull back to his old winning ways. Caleb Morrissey right now, though, having struggles getting away from Dylan Poteet, who's running currently in the 9th position, and with him is Jimmy McKee. Dylan's going to stay right there, and as this battle progresses further up ahead, you're seeing some similar motions. Dawson Buchanan, a very impressive rookie in the Highline Racing League, has once again pulled out up in front, but he's not just fighting for the top 10, and now he's fighting inside of the top 5's confines. Buchanan is a driver that, if you're a fan of Stadium Scene TV, one of the proud partners of our community here at FTM Broadcasting, you might know Dawson Buchanan as a frequent contender in the Wednesday Dash Series, in which he's vying for a championship. He's been their dominant driver all year long, and I'll tell you this much, as I go through Stadium Scene's social media pages, there's no way to escape the mention of Dawson Buchanan's name. Here in the Highline Racing League, I have a strong feeling, so long as he keeps his car under him, race after race, we're going to eventually see a little bit more from Dawson Buchanan in the future. Right now, he's running in that 4th spot and doing a wonderful job at that. It looks like right now, podium bound, he might be, as he's catching up to Scott Wheeler. And it's great to see the veterans and rookies going at each other toe-to-toe directly here. And Winstead right there in the mix as well. The veterans who have not only seen road course experience, but overall success, more or less have the better opportunity up in front. Track position, of course, coming from qualifying, and if you know what you know about the Xfinity cars and left and right turns, well, that's going to make all the difference. Qualifying will be the be-all, end-all tonight, but don't expect it to be an outlier for someone like Roberto Ramirez to come up through the field. These first few laps will not be telling who has the stuff and who does not, because eventually you're going to see more mistakes being made regardless of where you are. These Xfinity cars tend to get slippery as the race goes on, and track conditions are going to play a big part into that. Right now, track temperature is only 87 degrees Fahrenheit, though, and conditions are as cool as they come. Air temperature of 67 Fahrenheit, and it is a cool track, which means, yes, these cars are going to be slippery, but the field, in essence, is going to be given the best assistance possible. The weather is going to be a saving race tonight. I think that's something that oftentimes goes unnoticed. Matt Muir going to be here in the 11th spot, coming up on Caleb Morrissey, and it looks like Caleb falling backwards. Dylan Poteet got by. Matt Muir might be up next. Back half of the field is going to be fighting tight. Kenny Brooks is going to see a driver sliding and spinning. That's Jason Harris. No yellow flags tonight, but Harris falls back to dead last. Here's why. Jason Harris involved in the first notable incident of the day, the Quaker State 88, loose and alone, so it looks like he did not get involved in the kerfuffle ahead of him, but instead slid by his own means. Unfortunately for Harris, he's going to be very far back now in 20th, finds himself 5 laps in, all alone with 52 minutes remaining. Dawson Buchanan is going to be here in that 4th spot. Chad Winstead is 5th, and Tyler Hampton is P6, with Scott's down there 7th, Roberto Ramirez 8th, and all of which are now wrapped into a bundle of their own. Roberto Ramirez has gotten up to what is effectively the battle now for 3rd. He's just got to make his way up the chain, which won't be easy, but the first step will be. Tyler Hampton gives him that spot, and Hampton, well, we don't know him all too well as a road course racer, but he's particularly competent no matter where we go. Short tracks, those of a Richmond and Iowa style might be his forte, but he'll have to get around Dawson Buchanan. Buchanan goes around, and everyone going to have to go wide. Dawson backs up, gets out of the way of Morrissey, Muir, and Austin Bloom, but it looks like the number 4 going to have some additional troubles. Take a look back now, and you'll see for Dawson, the cause of which he falls behind Scott Wheeler, noses it in, and it looks like he'll go around off the back end of the 2-time champ. Luckily doesn't involve anyone else, but it looks like Buchanan trying to make a spot, almost using the chrome horn. Well, it's going to send him around instead. That's going to bring Dawson down to 13th here, and unfortunately for him, well, we haven't seen these as recoverable mistakes. The problem is now for Buchanan, unless he gets a yellow flag, which is especially unlikely, he's going to find himself at the tail end until the checkered flag falls. He's going to have to work real hard now to get back up to this battle, and especially this leading train. Lucas Lodato and Alan Cumming are in worlds of their own, but everyone else still pretty tight. Roberto Ramirez here riding in 5th and getting closer to Scott Zellner. He'll be riding in P5 rather if he takes the spot. The 18-time winner is just ahead of Roberto here, and for Ramirez, we've been waiting a season since we've gotten a victory out of him. Ramirez has gotten it done best at road courses, but as of late, his past 2 victories have come at ovals. So now here's a chance to once again bring back the prowess in the right turns as we take a look on board. Side by side, Winstead and Scott Wheeler go manufactured teammates. Still side by side, and now it looks like Chad Winstead, Scott Zellner, and Scott Wheeler are fighting each other. Winstead gonna go around into Ramirez, into Tyler Hampton. It's gonna be a chain reaction that sends the defending champion sliding here in Chicago. You saw it play out. Just looks like a little bit of contact coming in, and both drivers behind get knocked up fast. Take a look here. We'll take that instant replay to show you. Chad Winstead just up and ahead of Roberto Ramirez. Ramirez still makes up the position, as does, of course, Tyler Hampton. Winstead's going to be the big loser out of that one. He loses a total then of 3 positions from Ramirez, Hampton, and eventually Dylan Poteet. That will send Chad down to 8th, and you're starting to see that qualifying, well, that order is going to differentiate as the night progresses. Scott Zellner now coming up here with Scott Wheeler and the Flying Scotsman, as we often call them. Members of the same team, they're running in 3rd and 4th now. The only exceptions are going to be right now Blacktop Racing's Alan Cumming and, well, far, far away, Lucas Lodato, who's winning this thing outright. Nevertheless, we'll keep the focus on the battles here more than anything else. It looks like the teammates here have no incentive to go at each other. Instead, their goal is to chase after Alan Cumming. Austin Bloom, Matt Muir going to be coming up on Chad Winstead, and while damaged, it looks like a minor cosmetic incident. The driver, the number 1 machine, well, looks like he got away for the most part. Now the question becomes whether or not he can seal the deal. 48 minutes left on the clock here. Dawson Buchanan is in 11th. He's been able to gain 2 spots since his most recent incident, and he's coming up now on P10. That's, of course, Austin Bloom. Austin, for what it's worth, is not often given credit as a road course racer. But if you watched the Highline Racing League before on Tuesday nights, well, you'd know that Austin Bloom knows his way around these left and right turn circuits. He's a driver who's gotten the checkered flag overseas. Last time we went to Okayama, he was the man who won it outright. He's a driver who hasn't been given his flowers when it comes to the Highline Racing League's premier level. He's a driver who definitely has what it takes to keep things going. If the night goes, of course, his way and he keeps it clean, I think he's going to have a fair shot to come away with more than the top 10. Other drivers have continued to make mistakes up and ahead of him, and now there's a chance to get inside the single digits first and foremost. Here's Matt Muir, last time by. Oh, Winstead goes around again! Oh, and from bad to worse, Chad Winstead, this time with significant front-end damage. And it looks like he'll fall down the ladder further. This brings the number 1 down to 13th. Just looks like he misses the turn. And that time, just a straight-up driver error, and unfortunately just not minding his own, not necessarily not minding his own business, but just wasn't keeping track through the corners, and that's going to cost him. It brings Winstead down to 13th. Matthew Rodriguez already falls to pit road. Caleb Morrissey with some major front-end damage as well. You're starting to see some trouble for a few drivers. Buchanan is back up to 10th and might have his way around Austin Bloom here if Austin doesn't around Matt Muir. 46 minutes remaining here. The first quarter has been dominant by one man, of course, Lucas Logano. And no question, we come around to these road course races, the narrative has flipped. Before we've seen dominant drivers, but well, Lucas Logano, he's getting a chance with these Xfinity cars. The last time that we went to multiple road courses in a season, that was season 15. Dylan Clark was the driver who won in both of those instances. Season 14, it was a split between Chad Winstead and, alongside him, Roberto Ramirez. Logano will be the second driver in 4 seasons to win back-to-back road course races. That's an accolade that doesn't come without long-term effort and continued dedication here in the Highline Racing League. It's tricky, of course, to get there by any means, and right now for Lucas Logano, well, he's doing it as if it isn't. He's 15 seconds ahead of his next nearest competitor in Alan Cumming. He's been able to pull more than a second each and every lap. And it looks like he'll continue to do so. One driver gets up on the wall slightly, Tyler Hampton down a pit road, and looking back to the battle between 8th and 9th, 10th alike, Austin Bloom now facing some significant pressures. It's only gotten tighter. Here comes the number 3 of Austin Bloom. Here with them, Dawson Buchanan. Then you got Brad Kress. Kress has been quiet today, but now he might have a chance to enter the fold. Austin Bloom here, still just ahead. Dawson Buchanan keeping him honest. And, well, we saw what happened last time. That Dawson Buchanan took the chrome horn and made it happen. Well, it didn't quite work out. He fell from outside of the top 5, just barely, to outside of nearly the top 15. And dropping that far back, well, he cannot afford to have that happen again. As it stands, it's going to be the number 4 machine still in the middle of the fight. Brad Kress has been able to make up tenths of a second each and every lap. While the gap between he and Lucas Logano has obviously continued to grow, the gap between Brad Kress and Matt Muir has only decreased. In the last 4 laps, Austin Bloom has lost several tenths of a second each and every time to Brad Kress. Brad has been significantly quicker, and now even as he gets up to the back bumper of this fight, he is still making slight gains. Dawson Buchanan's got to recognize this if he wants any chance to get in the mix with Austin Bloom and Matt Muir. He's got to make his move before Brad Kress does. Loose, that's Terry Brooks. He'll keep it together and stay straight. Chad Winstead also loose in the back of the frame, and you can see Winstead's continued damage is starting to play a role. Austin Bloom in the number 3 here, still biding his time. Matt Muir has been able to lead this field, or this segment anyway, without any issue. It looks like Matt Muir might be the only driver that benefits from the stalemate. Usually we say that a driver would love to see side by side in the rearview mirror. Well, I really don't think that's the case tonight, especially with the type of track that we are at. Tire barriers are not forgiving. The walls are going to slam you up and down the circuit. If you go side by side behind and you end up tapping the driver ahead of you, well, it gets real bad from there. And by real bad, it could be a race ender. One driver, a retiree in Jimmy McKee. Jimmy, of course, finding himself in the thick of the top 10 battle in points. Let's talk about points here. Something we haven't mentioned in a little while as the championship battle has started to develop. Well, there's a few drivers that have come on the up and up. Alan Cumming, Caleb Morrissey, last 2 winners, of course, that have been able to make their way through and snap winless droughts. Kunman is the championship leader. Chad Winstead comes into the day second in points, and right now, while it does look like he is at all outperforming that number 8, Allen right now looks to be poised to extend his championship lead. Caleb Morrissey moved up to 14th in points with that race victory, and looks like continued successes will further help him out. Dawson Buchanan getting real close to Brad Kress there. And now Brad with a chance to gun it down the straight and take it with them. Here goes the number 4 on the outside of Austin Bloom. Side by side, one's got to give. Will it be Buchanan? No, it will not be. Austin Bloom is now going to lose the spot. Brad Kress with another driver to deal with here. Matt Muir starting to break away further. He's got himself a 2-second lead now to Dawson Buchanan, and it's the definition of staying calm under pressure. Buchanan does gain those extra 2 on Brad Kress and, of course, Austin Bloom. Now he's back up into 8th, and the recovery has been strong. As low as the 13th position at the lap. Of course, he got up 1 spot, so it's registered officially as low of 12th. He was as high as 9th, though, so it looks like now a little bit of contact, and he gets up in the wall. P4, the best place he's been in. Maybe a chance to continue gaining, but the next best driver for him to catch up to is, well, Matt Muir, who's in 7th here. Then you got Dylan Poteet, 6 seconds up on Matt Muir. Then you got Scott Zellner even further up and ahead. Roberto Ramirez is going to be currently in the 4th spot, and he is, well, he's made major moves. The fact that he's up in the battle for 2nd here is an indicator enough that Ramirez, he's got no quit, and he definitely has that race pace. He's coming up closer on Scott Wheeler. Take a look on board now at the number 42, and you'll see exactly what's going on as Roberto catches up to Wheeler and coming alike. Right now, backing up the corners, I don't think there's any incentive for Roberto Ramirez to bash his head in. He's got to bide his time here. Scott Wheeler, Alan Cumming, both of which are going to be fighting each other, and if they make a mistake, Ramirez does not want any part of it. You remember, he's got some of that front end damage, and you can see it right there on your screen. In large part, it comes from the battle involving Chad Winstead and, of course, Tyler Hampton. Hampton has not been able to keep up as well. Tyler's 2 laps down as it stands. He decided to go down a pit road. Roberto Ramirez decided to stay on the circuit. It's a completely different look right now for the 42, though, relative to the driver who was just behind him in that fight. Ramirez has stayed alive, and Tyler Hampton is all but done for. Taking a look back over the hill, Matt Muir is being caught up to by Dawson Buchanan. Looks like even though Dawson has some of that front end damage of his own, he is still keeping pace and actually looks to be closing in on the time. Last time through, he was able to come in about 1 second and 2/10 faster. So Matt Muir making a significant mistake on that lap, and now he's going to have to pay the consequences, of course. Here comes the number 4, Dawson Buchanan in 8th, and he's coming up on Matt Muir in 7th. But with him, he'll also bring Bloom, Kress, and even Terry Brooks. We mentioned Terry got loose and made a mistake, but last time by, he was one of the fastest drivers on the track. He ran a 1:35.489, which compared to leader Lucas Lodato was only 0.3 of a second slower. Now it looks like Terry Brooks might have a chance to maybe take Brad Kress's position, or maybe get up there with Bloom or Buchanan. All of a sudden now, Terry Brooks is going to find himself significantly slower again, and you can see that gap expand. Just one mistake makes all the difference, and now Brad Kress has a little bit more breathing room. Austin Bloom, Dawson Buchanan still chasing, but Matt Muir has kept himself alive even as the gap has continued to shrink. It's just very challenging to find room to be aggressive. Even if you have that pace, the difficulty in getting there, it's something we can't necessarily describe without you being inside the cockpit. There is some room to maybe throw it side by side on occasion, and in very few occasions at that. But otherwise, the field is stuck single file because there is little other choice that can be made. 37 minutes remaining on the clock here. We're getting closer to halfway. Pit road will be considered very soon. At about the 30-minute mark, you're going to see drivers begin to go in. Austin Bloom drifting out of that final corner and leaving those skid marks with them. Now the battle separates further. Brad Kress coming up on the 3 of Austin Bloom. Battle's going to be side by side now for 9th. Advantage is still going to be Bloom as he takes the corner wide. Dawson Buchanan to the inside on Matt Muir. Looks like now Dawson has finally found the room to make the pass happen. Toe-to-toe, the driver of the number 4 getting the exit off the corner, and with them comes Matt Muir. Significantly better, though, for the number 4. Dawson Buchanan into 7th, and with that comes Matt Muir back to 8th. Battle to stay inside the top 10 is going to continue here, so maybe Austin Bloom and Brad Kress can put down some more pressure, and you best believe now that Austin Bloom is going to go for it. Looking to the inside on Matt Muir. He's got speed, he's got the toe from Dawson Buchanan. They're side by side, and the 9 is right there with. Although it looks like only Austin will have a chance to take the pass. Right out the corner, contact with the outside wall. Muir gets loose. Both drivers will falter. They're going to stay side by side. Perfect move from Brad Kress. Although he made some contact, it looked to be superficial damage, and he's going to make that pass on Matt Muir. He'll get up to 9th. Now Terry Brooks might be the next man to lie down some pressure and put Matt Muir again in his place. The gap between Alan Cummin and Lucas Lodato is 21 seconds in Lodato's favor. Goes to show how dominant he's been in the race lead. Everyone else is a secondary character in what has been Lodato's race to win. And unfortunately for Lucas Lodato, I can't imagine it's all too entertaining being out there without any competition. And sometimes, of course, I don't think that's something a driver wants to see just for the sake of it, to have competition just to make it interesting. But you got to imagine right now for Lucas Lodato, he's just taking these laps back and forth like they're time trial laps. And he is still the fastest driver on the track. That time he was the one and only that ran a sub 135 second lap. He's one of the fastest, no doubt. And the question becomes, of course, whether or not he can keep it up there. When we talk about one of the fastest, we talk about on the platform. He's had experience in open wheel racing in the semi-pro level, shall we say the amateur level. Of course, we go to league racing, VCO, and their open wheel platform, Nexus Esports, which is a professional team in the NASCAR world, helping out with Lucas Lodato and giving him some seat time. But I don't think he ever needed that expertise to dominate here in the Highline Racing League. When it comes to road courses, there's one driver now that we're going to have to look at. Lodato is that man, and currently he's got himself up and ahead. Lucas still finding himself on top. Further on back, the battle for second persists, but it's more so shifted to who can fight for third. Scott Whelan and Roberto Ramirez are those two. Take a look on board now at the number 42 with some driver telemetry. And just one mistake, albeit minor, is going to cost about a tenth or two. Watching on board here with that telemetry, you can see the finesse having to work both pedals while shifting gears. And, of course, minding the steering wheel. You got to point yourself in the right direction. You got to be in the right gear. You've got to make sure that down below, you're working the right movements. Gas, brake, shifting gears, steering. All at once, again and again and again, and nothing's necessarily the same. Drivers ahead of you, for Roberto Ramirez specifically, are something that are going to be an active threat. They're not going to be going at each other in sort of a resentful way, but contact will be major. Ramirez down a pit road, and he's going to go down quickly as Alan Cummin now faces real pushback from Scott Wheeler. You might have heard them go at each other, you might have seen it, and now it's time for Wheeler to send it deep. Cummin goes wide, and now up to second, Scott Wheeler. We're 18 laps in. We're expecting pit road for the most part to be open for laps 19, 20, 21, and 22. That's the anticipation. And now with 32 minutes left on the clock, well, drivers know full well we're coming down to the halfway point. Strategy will be of abundance. Brad Kress also decides to make it in. Recently, Chad Winstead went down to pit road, as did Scott Zellner and Caleb Morrissey. And looks like about half the field has gone down to pit road. Up next, well, the next half, of course, the leaders that still remain. Austin Bloom is still behind Dawson Buchanan. Now Dawson has cycled back up to 5th, at least for the time being. It may be a good spot to be in here for the number 4, but I don't think it's going to be necessarily permanent. Great place to be. Now what's up next is, of course, second half. Can Dawson keep on gaining, or is he going to be stuck in about 6th or 7th all night long? Dylan Poteet going to make a bit of a mistake here and cost himself a few seconds, slowly puttering around the next set of corners, but it looks like minor damage, if any. Dylan should be able to keep on going, although you can see the right front wheel well doesn't look to be in perfect shape. And that suspension damage is going to bend him in on both sides here, so you can see maybe a little bit more trouble with the steering. If you take a look inside the cockpit, well, we're going to both see for ourselves. For the time being, it does not look like Dylan Poteet is completely done for when it comes to steering anyway, but definitely going to be gentle around the corners here, does not want to give himself any reason to fall for any additional damage, and you can see almost like a boat floating over the racing circuit. Doesn't have it all too sharp or agile any longer, but he still has good track position. Can he hang on? That remains to be seen. 19 laps in out of 38. We're coming to the halfway point here, and Terry Brooks decides to opt in to pit road. Your leaders, Lucas Lodato and company, well, they're next to figure out what's up. Lucas Lodato up 27 seconds on second place, and Scott Wheeler, he's put up more than a second each and every lap, and it looks like that trend will continue here as we meet the exact halfway marker. Lucas Lodato will decide to stay out for one more lap with 30 minutes remaining. It'll be currently Lucas Lodato in first, Scott Wheeler in second, Alan Cumming then in third. You got Dylan Poteet P4, and then Dawson Buchanan, who's in fifth, with Austin Bloom sixth, Matt Muir in 7th, and P8. Then from there, Roberto Ramirez in the number 42. Ninth place will be Chad Winstead, and P10 right now is Scott Zellner, and that's your midway race report in terms of the top 10 drivers. They're spread out by 1 minute and 7 seconds. Make sure to, of course, check out online's leading sim racing provider, leading sim racing platform, and the best place to go if you want to start your virtual racing career, iRacing.com. For additional information, visit iRacing.com for, of course, news on how you can register, additional information about the platform and the eNASCAR world. You can start as an amateur and make your way up to the top level by joining the eNASCAR Road to Pro Tour. Of course, you got to get yourself some practice laps in first, so why wait to register? Visit iRacing.com today, and we'll be right back after a message from our friends at iRacing Motorsport Simulations.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head to head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Lucas Lodato joins us as we come back for halfway coverage. It's now Lodato coming out of pit road, still with the race lead, and he only lost about 15 or so seconds, and those are seconds he could spare. Now Scott Wheeler comes in, as does Alan Cumming. Dawson Buchanan is going to tentatively cycle up into the second position here, although it looks like he will not get any lead lap bonuses as long as, well, of course, your race leader and Lucas Lodato doesn't give him any, although he does get loose, and now Austin Bloom has a chance to strike right back. That now moves Austin Bloom up to next second. However, these two drivers are now the final on track who still have to come down and in. Number 3 of Bloom, finding himself now in P2. It's the highest spot he's going to be in for the rest of the night. Unfortunately, he's only going to fall down from here. Not to say it's been a bad run, but odds are now, based on a significant overcut, it's not going to help Austin, at least for the next 5 or 6 laps. Tires are going to be significant, and they have been all night long. Let's talk about the tire numbers first and foremost. That time by, Austin Bloom in the wall again, but he last run a 136.283. quickest lap, a 134.962, so about a second and a half different. For Lucas Lodato, the difference is a bit more significant. He was last running 135.5 second laps. His quickest lap is a 132.753, a lap time which he has yet to eclipse. However, now with the new set of rubber, I think he's got a chance to do so. We'll see if Lucas Lodato decides to go hot lapping this time by or the next. We might see Lucas set the Highline Racing League track record and extend the record he already has. Isra Racing Series in the chat room, thank you for stopping by. Once again, I'd like to thank Isra Racing for stopping, of course, on the FTN broadcasting channel, still giving them some help with their thumbnails and graphic designs over at P1 Broadcasting. They run Monday nights at about the 8 o'clock time slot. So, of course, the Integrity Ignite Series running at that time as well, but a little bit of FTN work sprinkled in there with the graphic design for P1 Broadcasting, and glad to, of course, see them in the chat room once again. As it stands, Lucas Lodato is going for that hot lap. Let's see whether or not he can best his own time. He is 28 seconds ahead of second place, and you might notice already it's a new man in the second spot. That is Roberto Ramirez. He's going to bang the wall once again on the left side. Nevertheless, Roberto has several seconds up on Alan Kunman. He currently finds himself 5.5 seconds ahead. And interesting to see right now that tires were not the biggest concern for Ramirez. The undercut is going to give him all the track position necessary. Now, for some drivers, this might be the right thing to do. For Ramirez, a road course racing veteran who's gotten victories in this league before, going left and right, I think this is the best decision that could be made. Rather than, of course, waiting, biding his time, and trying to go for maybe a little bit of a longer-term process, you can cut, get some spots right now, and worry significantly less. I think this is the best thing that could be done now for the 42 team if he can hang on and avoid additional damage. And that's the big condition. He got involved with an incident at the front of the field, including Dawson Buchanan and Tyler Hampton before. And if it went wrong, it would have been a race ender. Luckily, of course, that's only if. Didn't end up going that way for Ramirez. For the number 5 of Tyler Hampton, well, it ended up being a destroyer. But right now, looks like for the number 42 Ramirez, all he's got to do is watch his back. And Alan Kunman has been slower as of late. He's lost a second and a third in the past 2 laps. And it looks like right now, even with some newer rubber, Alan is going to struggle to get back up there to Ramirez. Although Alan is out in his own and third in his own right, because he's 8 seconds ahead of the next man in Scott Zellner. Zellner's now going to be surrounded by Brad Kress and Chad Winstead. Winstead on an 11-lap-old run, and this is where that expertise beats tire wear. Doesn't matter if you're on 40-lap-old tires. If you know a road course better than a less experienced driver, 9 times out of 10, you'll have the advantage. And it looks like right now, that's the principle that Chad Winstead has to work with. If he wants any chance at beating the drivers ahead of him and getting back inside of the top 5, I think now he's just got to rely on his own instinct. That instinct when it comes to road course racing is the strongest one might have for short track racing or super speedway racing. Right now, if you understand the principles of the craft, you're going to do much better than someone who has the tools but doesn't have that know-how. And right now, well, that's why Chad Winstead's back up to 6th. A reminder, he was as high as 4th on the day, low of 13th, and now he's making his way back up. Maybe a chance to get up there into the top 5 if he can just get by Brad Kress, who's having his best race of the season. We don't really think of Brad Kress as a road course racer, but tonight he's really hit his stride, and so far the Haas number 9 machine has shown no signs of falter. Instead, he's remained reliable, consistent, and ever improving. Just the highest spot he's been in all night long, continuing to grow and grow compared to where he started in 13th, up 8 spots on the day. And something to look back on, of course, with pride as one of his better showings throughout the entire season to this point. Coming down to pit road again, it will not be Matt Muir, but Muir with some significant contact. Caleb Morrissey still with damage here, and both drivers in the mid-pack facing consequences of that damage. Dylan Pote coming up next with Now, as we just passed the 22 minutes remaining marker, we would like to thank TrackCams22.com for bringing the onboard cameras for tonight's race, giving us the looks inside the cockpit. I think it's about time that we show you exactly what's going on, unfiltered, the sights and sounds of the Grant Park Street Circuit. With now 21 minutes and 30 seconds left on the timing sheet, it's about time that we crank it up now. Visit TrackCams22.com or Facebook.com/TrackCams for additional information. Let's get loud and live as we crank it up with contact. Caleb Morrissey in the wall. Now as he gets things going, let's hear the engine roar as we crank it up in Chicago. Now it's 17 minutes and 45 seconds remaining, coming back from cranking it up here in Chicago. Nothing has changed up in front. The battles have simmered down, and in all honesty, it's a calm circuit, although it still is an active one. Final moments are just ahead of us here from the Grant Park Street Circuit, and Lucas Lodato has been ringing in the seconds. He's now 30 ahead of Roberto Ramirez, and still, he's put up more than a second per lap on average, even though he had that pit stop, which basically reset the time for he, Ramirez, and all those in the field. Goes to show how consistent Roberto Ramirez has been in second, and even how Lucas Lodato has even been more so. Ramirez has had to gain significantly, coming from 14th in the tail end of the field all the way up. While Lucas Lodato, of course, started up and ahead, and he has stayed there, and I think now he's just looking to finish the job. Look further back, closest battle is the only one where two drivers are within 1 second. Everyone else is going to be very far spaced out, and we gave a little bit of time during the crank it up to take a specific focus on this one. Now Brad Kress is coming up on Scott Zellner. Kress has been able to make his way up inside the top 5, and while Brad Kress, as we mentioned beforehand, might not be the best of road course racers, tonight he has played the strategy game very well. Scott Zellner's just outside of the podium right now, but when it comes to just outside in position, it's a whole nother world when it comes to timing. 12 seconds the gap between he and Allen coming in third. Looks especially unlikely that he's going to make it all the way and put it into, of course, third place, unless Allen Cummins is to make a significant mistake. Jason Harris just went down to pit road once again, although, of course, now it's a very much a long shot. It's still possible. Allen Cummins, though, doesn't look like he's going to make any mistakes anytime soon. Even if he does decide to back off the pace and keep himself in the third spot, well, he's got himself an ample amount of laps, an ample amount of seconds to spare. Even if he goes intentionally about a second a lap slower, look like he would hang on to the position no matter what. Gap is closing. Brad Kress going to make that gap between he and Scott Zellner about 0.6 of a second. It has fluctuated ever so slightly, but for the time being, it looks like Brad Kress still has a minor disadvantage, which not only comes from pace, although it looks like that time by he was quicker, it just comes down to position. Kress has not had to do all too much work to make his way around, and in large part that comes down to what he's seen ahead of him. Dawson Buchanan helping him out and making his way through on Austin Bloom and company beforehand. Buchanan is out of this race, mind you. Went down to pit road and he's kept it there. He's going to be 6 laps down as it stands. Same goes for Scott Wheeler, Austin Bloom, Kenny Brooks, and Jamie McKee. But for Kress, he benefited significantly from working with Dawson Buchanan there. Didn't have to dig in by himself, and as a result, we really don't know what Brad Kress can do when it comes down to making passes, if possible. But we'll see how much longer he decides to wait here. Brad Kress is still hanging on. Then from there, you got Chad Winstead still about 10 seconds behind. Now a battle for position, although they're 1 lap down. It's going to be 9th and 10th. Terry Brooks, Caleb Morrissey. Side by side, Morrissey up top. He's going to have the advantage now. We'll see if Terry Brooks can battle back again. That time by, Terry Brooks was overall about 4 seconds quicker than Caleb Morrissey was on the previous lap, so it's a wonder that Caleb Morrissey has still been able to defend. He gets up in the wall, his damage is significant, but the holding down of the apex is all Caleb Morrissey has to do. He'll stay down at the bottom side. Caleb Morrissey, he's still there, while Terry Brooks goes up top. If he continues to defend successfully, he might be able to hang on for another lap or two. We go. Terry Brooks gets loose again, and just forcing a mistake out of your competitor is all that you can do with that much damage. It's inevitable, of course. Terry Brooks will get there, but for the time being, Caleb Morrissey's keeping him intact. Major mistake there for the number 6, and here comes Terry Brooks once again, working down the straightaway on his own. Terry's going to find himself just behind the number 6. Jason Harris there too, but Jason is 2 laps down, not going to be involved in this fight regardless. Dylan Poteet going to be up and away in 8th. Now you're seeing Caleb Morrissey fall back. Terry Brooks gets the pass. So we'll see how much longer Caleb Morrissey can stay even within the confines of the 23, as it looks like now Terry is getting away and quick. Morrissey's going to fall down to 10th. Terry Brooks in P9, and both of these drivers should be secure in their position. Next best driver is going to be Jason Harris, who's a lap down on both of which. No concerns about staying inside the top 10. It just looks like for Terry Brooks, he's more concerned about getting up to the next driver. Everyone else, very far apart. Gaps are still very significant. Brad Kress and Scott Zellner, the only battle else that can be focused on. I think it goes to show the big differences between the best drivers and those who don't have all too much experience here at the road courses. The quickest pull away immediately, and then from there it has been nothingness. 11 minutes and 40 seconds remaining. Lucas Lodato, Roberto Ramirez, Alan Cumming, top three, and even the top three are separate by 44 seconds here. I don't think there's much else that Alan Cumming can do. He's not going to be put a lap down. However, the majority of the field is at least one under. Nat Muir will be up next, and you can see here Lucas Lodato is coming up on that number 70. Maybe another driver going one lap down would leave us with only 6 drivers in lead lap status. What a significant showing it's been for Lucas Lodato. He was dominant in Montreal, but you might remember he had a little bit more early competition than this. He didn't immediately run away in the same fashion. But of course, tonight, it's proven to be a completely different story. Lucas Lodato got the jump, ran away, and it looks like the checkered flag could be his. So long as, of course, he keeps himself in one piece, which is never a guarantee. 10 more minutes. That's about 5 or so more laps. That's all it needs to be for the driver number 7, Lucas Lodato. Victory is ahead of him. Roberto Ramirez is 36 seconds back. Alan Cumming 43 seconds back overall. Scott's down there 51 seconds behind. Within a minute of your race winner. 5 drivers. Only 5 drivers. It's hard to understand those numbers without the context of how long, how big this track is. This circuit is 2.14 miles, which is just about the length of, shall we say, Auto Club or Michigan. And usually when we go to those tracks, we have up to 40 drivers within 5 seconds. Lucas Lodato has spread himself out by that number 7 times over second place Roberto Ramirez. You could fit up to 160 drivers twice. So give us 420 drivers and then add an extra 40 on top. You could be 460 cars behind it, stacked end-to-end, row to row. That's how far back Roberto Ramirez would be on Lucas Lodato right now. If we were at a track like Auto Club or Michigan with the exact same measurements, he is in a whole other world, Lucas Lodato. And he's left everyone behind to fend for themselves. Meanwhile, he's been able to collect every lap led. He's been able to collect the fastest lap. There's no telling how much better it gets for Lucas Lodato. I don't think it gets any better than the race he's put on tonight. And a showing of speed and dominance that maybe we should have expected. The rest of the field, though, did not come prepared to combat him. Lodato leads, and he's just got to hold himself straight the rest of the way. Let's talk about what else is going on track. Brad Kress is in 5th. Chad Winstead's recovery race looks like he's simmered down the effort, and he should be able to come away just about where he started, or just a few spots behind, shall we say. He'll be 6th. And almost getting up into the top 5. Oh, so close to getting the job done. Now the question remains clear. And of course, Chad Winstead keep it straight. He had multiple errors, one of which was not necessarily on his own. The other of which, where the more significant damage came from, was a driver-only error that sent him down to his lowest 13th here. So he's got to avoid the latter. He really doesn't have to worry about anything involving another driver. There's simply put nobody around him. So we'll see what Winstead does here. As long as he keeps it together in one piece, I don't think he's got anything to be concerned about. A little bit of contact with the wall there, but as long as, anyway, it is nothing too absurd, I think Chad Winstead here is locked in for 6th place. 1 lap down, Dylan Poteet, Terry Brooks, Caleb Morrissey, all of which inside the top 10. Jason Harris is in 11th. Tyler Hampton is in 12th. So Hampton, despite the fact he's had trouble, he has decided to hold on. 15th place is Jacob Halm, who's 10 laps down. He is taking it on to pit road, but he is not officially retired, as has Matthew Rodriguez or Adam Bozzi. They are 17th and 19th here. They have also decided to more or less retire it for the day. Tyler Hampton's going to pass by them once more. Tyler almost going to get himself a top 10 by virtue of just going around the track. Puttering around the circuit, more often than not, gets you better results than being quick and being reckless. And tonight, while we mentioned Dawson Buchanan was fast, while we saw that Jimmy McKee had good qualifying speed, while we saw that Austin Bloom had some top 10 pace as well, they're not on the track any longer. The difference between success and failure at a road course for some of these drivers is simply staying on the track. Matt Muir's right there, number 70, one of the survivors of that battle in 7th here. While he let Chad Winstead go, he did instead get ahead of Buchanan and, of course, Austin Bloom. Right now, overall, Matt Muir being on the track, that's a victory in itself when it comes to keeping position. Going to be a good points day for him. A few of his teammates, though, not so much, particularly seeing all the way at the back Rodriguez. Robert Kenny not racing with us, so not going to get any points out of the night. Sebastian Miller taking a provisional for today, so he'll be credited with last place points and come ahead with a 21st place finish when the night is done. However, Seb Miller not taking it to the track, so that's not necessarily relevant to the battles you've seen on the circuit, just something to note when it comes to tabulating points. Winstead, well, he finds himself 6th, and then on back, everyone else gets their respective points. Seb Miller will take 21st on the night for not going into this event. Scott Zellner 34 laps into this race. Now the gap is closing once again. He had a few more laps where it looked like he was going to get away from Brad Kress. Well, it looks like that's changed once more. If you're looking on with Brad Kress, I think he's putting his most effort in here and now. 5 minutes remaining. It's the final 5. Might not be the last 5 laps because we're already beyond that territory. We're now to the last 3 laps here. You got to perform now or never, and if you want to make a move, you've got to take that risk. There's only one driver behind Brad Kress right now on the lead lap. There's very little he could lose. There's still quite a lot he could gain. Staying right behind and in tow. Just got to stay calm here and maybe start to force some errors. Going to be hard to lunge it in these corners. A lot of them are only 90 degrees. The draft is something that, though, has been powerful on the straights. For Brad Kress here anyway, it looks like that's all he's got to maybe put back a 10th or 2, but he can't just pile drive it into the next driver. It's going to be a complete failure if he does that. You'll notice that Scott Zellner is actually getting closer here to Alan Kunman. That time by, Zellner ran a lap that was quicker than your leader in Lucas Lodato and every other driver on the circuit. That was a 134.868. Well, he was bested only by Brad Kress. And both of which are about a 1.5 seconds faster each and every time by on Alan Kunman. And the gap now is only 1.8 seconds. With 3 minutes and 55 seconds remaining, there is a real possibility that both Zellner and Brad Kress get into the fight for the podium here and maybe get up to Alan Kunman, who, while getting away, is not completely done just yet. There's Brad Kress. He's about 8/10 back here on Scott Zellner, and while Zellner might be the first to send the message, you better believe now that Brad Kress is looking for a chance for what could be his first podium on the campaign. Alan Kunman, points leader, looking for his 2nd championship, starting to build up that extra point advantage. He's going to finish ahead of Chad Winstead regardless. It's going to mean much more for Zellner and Kress than it would here for Kunman. But just because of the objective meaning doesn't mean that Alan Kunman's not going to try. You better believe he's going to continue defending regardless of the circumstance. Coming up on Terry Brooks, Jason Harris, both lappers, so maybe some lap car interference on the track could either help Kunman or it could significantly harm him. Right now on the main straights, as close as 1.2 seconds for Alan Kunman. You can see him building up the distance on the straights, and then the corners, of course, things get a little bit tighter. Jason Harris pulls out of the fight. That's going to leave now Zellner just behind and Brad Kress with. Looks like the lappers will not interfere themselves with this battle. Quaker State's number 88 still going to be inside of the 11th spot. And it looks like right now for Jason Harris, although he was down to dead last all the way back in 20th, well, he's gone up into the 11th position and he's made some significant gains. 2 minutes, 5 seconds, and it looks like next time by could be the white flag lap. For Lucas Lodato, that all remains to be seen as he is still out and away. He determines timing and scoring. It is significant how much he has control over this race. It's not the other way around. Whatever Lodato does, it's going to extend or shorten the rest of this event. So he's got 41 seconds to play with here relative to Roberto Ramirez, and it will be official that by that calculation, he's put up more than a second per lap for every lap in this race. The final estimate is that we will have only 38 laps, and next time by will be the white flag. Now, as Lucas Lodato rounds these corners for the penultimate occurrence, he has been unstoppable. And I think, well, of course, we saw he got that qualifying position. He got first place. Usually in these road course races, the best driver gets first and then they go away. That's been the trend for the past few seasons, and Lodato himself has experienced it before. White flag's going to be out this time by, and so Lucas Lodato will see for the final time Barney the Flagman. Well, the next time will be the checkered flag. 1 lap to go. Last lap here for Lodato. It looks like he will have himself in perfect standing to go all the way and collect the victory here. Further back, of course, the lappers continue to battle, and now the leaders will have to as well. With the white flag waving, let's see if Scott Zellner and Brad Kress decide to go at it here. Alan Cumming also going to be in the fight here. They're both going to try to get by Alan, who's been up in third for the majority of the night. Alan to lose a podium here, well, I can't imagine he'd be satisfied with a result outside the top 3. Brad Kress is going to get close, and now it's going to be Scott Zellner sandwiched. He's got Blacktop Racing ahead and behind him. The teammates, I don't think they're going to work together per se, but it's not going to be easy to get out of this binding. 1 lap to go. They're all crossing the start-finish line this time by. Zellner to the bottom, and it looks like Brad Kress going to trail him right with. Down the straightaway, still ample room for all 3, and as they continue to contend with one another, well, already Lucas Lodato done with his first half lap. 1 lap to go here for Lucas. He has led every lap on the day, and it looks like he's going to come out with victory in a very similar fashion as he did in Montreal. His breakout win, Lodato eluding him as a victory at an oval this season. He got as close as second, and now top spot is all that's left. Coming around the final corner this time by, Lucas Lodato is coming back to victory lane with a perfect race. Fastest lap, most laps led, every lap led. Lucas Lodato wins in Chicago. A perfect day for the number 7 team. Battle behind continues. Now Scott Zellner and Brad Kress will be side by side as they come over the Xfinity Bridge. The number 9 machine goes up top looking for a little bit of a slide job. And there you have it. Zellner parking it right through the apex. Defense on point. Alan Cumming running away. Roberto Ramirez will be next to collect that checkered flag. He'll come away in the 2nd position. Now for Brad Kress, it's do or die in these final 2 corners. And here we go. One last time. Looks like Zellner has the edge. Cumming is going to see a little bit of contact, although it isn't significant yet. Will Alan be moved out of the way? That remains to be seen. To the inside. Scott Zellner on Alan Cumming. It looks like Zellner will make the move. He'll get loose. Alan Cumming makes it by. So does Brad Kress. At the line, Kress comes home in 4th. With a daring move, Scott Zellner gives away a podium and ends up falling back to P5, while Lucas Lodato wins in dominant fashion in Chicago. Grant Park Grand Prix, it's over, and Lodato's a winner again at a road course. Results go as follows. It'll be Lucas Lodato winning from Roberto Ramirez, with Alan Cumming 3rd, Kress in 4th, and Scott Zellner in 5th. It'll be Chad Winstead P6, Matt Muir in 7th, and Dylan Poteet in 8th, Terry Brooks 9th, Caleb Morrissey then in 10th, and 11th place will be Jason Harris. Tyler Hampton finishes 12th with Scott Wheeler 13th, Dawson Buchanan 14th, and Jacob Hahn P15. Austin Bloom, Matthew Rodriguez, Adam Bozzi, Jimmy McKee, and 20th. Round out the lineup. And Lucas Lodato going to continue his celebration. Let's take a listen. Well, it looks like the burnout lap comes to a little bit of an early close. Nevertheless, checkered flag is Lucas Lodato's once again. He'll take victory over the rest of the field for the second time in his 2 road course starts, and it looks like we know who is the dominant man in the twists and turns for good. Let's hear from your top 3 drivers. First and foremost, we'll speak to Lucas Lodato, then we'll get second in Roberto Ramirez, and third in Alan Cumming. Lucas going to be coming our way. It looks like he's ready in the broadcast booth right now, leading every lap from the pole position. If Montreal wasn't dominant enough last season, Lucas, well, I think you've somehow raised the bar at these road courses. Checkered flag is yours here in the Chicago street circuit. What a way to come out on top, and it looked like nobody could stop you even from the beginning.
Yeah, obviously it feels really good to lead every lap. I couldn't have done it without my QCR guys, obviously. First win of the season for us. Very happy about that. Obviously, these are the types of races on the calendar that I like to circle when it comes to, I like the big oval tracks and I like the road courses. And so if anything less than winning is a failure in my eyes when it comes to going to a road course. So I hit the wall pretty early and gave myself some wheel damage and some front end damage, but it was only about 25 seconds worth of damage and it didn't really affect how the car drove at all. So very thankful for that. Could have been a lot worse. It would have been pretty embarrassing to stuff it in the fence after having like a 20-second lead. But yeah, I mean, it feels good to come out and have a good win and just get that off my back for the season. Hopefully, I can win another one on an oval like last year. We could sort of build on this momentum and keep having good finishes and hopefully be there in the points at the end.
And you mentioned, once again, for the second straight season, the road course win comes first. So getting the victory first and foremost, that's one thing in itself. Chicago Street Circuit, I'm not quite sure if you had any experience coming in. When it comes to your background with this track, is there any prior knowledge of it, or was this your first time racing?
I bought the racetrack when the randomizer hit it. So just like I said earlier in the week that I was going to do, and there was a little bit of rumbling about doing Chicago. I never owned the track. I didn't want the track. I wanted to race Road America tonight. Obviously, the randomizer giveth and it taketh away. So, it's fun. It's cool to see challenging type of tracks like this. It's tough. This is a tough track. The good thing is that the layout is simpler than Long Beach is for sure. It's slower than Long Beach. It's a lot more right hand and left hand 90-degree turns, whereas Long Beach has a bit more intricacy to it. But I in terms of street courses, they're always tough, and if you can keep yourself out of getting meatballs worth damage, then you're going to be in a pretty good spot at the end. Like Chad, for example. He had some troubles on the night before getting in and had to buy the track and only got about 15 minutes of the 35 minutes that we get of practice. And then, he had a couple incidents, but he still came back and finished on the lead lap in 6th place. And that's, a really good result for him. He could have been up near where I was if he had a bit more time to prep and didn't have those mistakes. But, he was able to keep it out of trouble. And that's what's important. Finishing on the lead lap is probably going to get you pretty close to a top 5 in races like this. So, it was good to see everybody. 20 people come out for a road course is pretty cool. I know we've been getting really good numbers, but it's good to see. I was hoping that we were going to get 15 or more, and we got 20, so that's awesome. So, it's always a fun night to get a win. So I'm very happy.
And a great win, of course, to come out with here. The randomizer, well, never disappoints with giving us something somewhat unexpected. Nevertheless, up next on the schedule, well, coming after our, unfortunately, one and only road course on the campaign, we got ourselves, once again, back to the ovals. A super speedway at that. So we're going to go even quicker than where we were tonight, and that's going to be either Talladega or New Atlanta. It's a 50-50 chance either way. How are you feeling about heading back to the ovals with some very fast-paced action?
Yeah, road courses are going to the lottery anyway, so well, hopefully we can just come out of there with a bag of points and move on. I'm not looking necessarily forward or anything when it comes to those, just trying to survive. So hopefully I could turn my luck around at those bigger tracks and actually get a decent finish for once. So
With a win to back you up now in the season standings, Lucas, you at least got the checkered flag to show for your efforts tonight. Checkered flag, you got it dominantly here in Chicago. If you have any last shout-outs or messages you'd like to give, make sure to let us know.
Yeah, like I said earlier, thanks to all the QCR guys. Thanks for everybody to come out and watch. Thanks to my girlfriend Lily for watching. As usual, I'll see you tomorrow. Very excited about that. And thanks for everybody for putting on the race. Thanks for everybody who pays attention to what we do and helps us out. So, a lot of things to be happy about tonight. So hopefully we can keep this momentum moving forward.
Big win for the number 7 team, breaking out again at the road courses. Lucas Lodato, Victor Knight, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Lucas Lodato on the move. We're going to go to another driver who we know time and time again exceeds at these road courses, but it was not easy to get here. From 14th on the starting grid up to 2nd, you've got the battle scars on the front end of the car, but you still made it here. Roberto, P2, how was it?
Honestly, I'm really pissed off at myself. That was by far the worst race I've ever driven. You have to be perfect. You have to bring something special to beat Lucas at the road courses these days, and I had that tonight and screwed myself over. There's a difference between being confident and being cocky, and I was probably cocky because I knew I was good tonight. And threw away my first lap because I didn't think it was good enough for pole, and it would have been, and then 0x on my second lap. So, yeah, just kind of drove the worst race of my life after that, got caught up in a bunch of crap, and really unacceptable execution on my part, to be honest. But if the worst race of my life is P2, I guess that's okay.
Well, you mentioned qualifying, making all the difference there, so how was it for you to climb back up even after that start?
We got through some cars at the start, got caught up in a couple wrecks along the way, and car still drove good. I mean, we undercut the 8 and the 97 and spun out twice and still beat him off pit road. So I think that kind of shows how fast I was, but speed doesn't mean anything if you don't execute.
And execution, of course, remaining critical at these road courses. Up next on the table, well, you could describe it again as something where execution is almost randomized. We got the superspeedways, Talladega, New Atlanta, either or up next on the campaign. Perhaps a chance to redeem yourself with a victory, although just about anyone could win there.
I don't hate the chances, but they're not going to be as good as they were tonight. I don't know if I'll ever be. I think I could have beat Lucas tonight, and props to him. You do have a great race, no flaws, but I don't know if I'll ever be that much faster in the field again. So it does kind of hurt to go from a race where I felt confident and good to kind of a lottery next week. But, I've had some success there in the past, so hopefully it'll be good to me.
And perhaps a chance to find your way back up to the top. Nevertheless, big gains to get to this point, Roberto. P2, if you have any final shout-outs you'd like to give, the floor is yours.
Yeah, I just want to, thank all my teammates always, Casey, JR, Ryan, Hines, Calvin, just everyone who's kind of helped me get to a spot where I can even be quick enough to throw away a good race like that. But the sun will rise tomorrow. We'll get up, go to Spire, and everything will be good in the world again.
Second place here from the Chicago Street Circuit, Roberto Ramirez. Thank you again for stopping by.
Yep, thank you.
Mirrors on the move. Alan Cunman continuing the good times, rolling for this 8th team. A podium finish, and it looks like a comfortable one at that from start to finish, keeping yourself in the top 3, Alan. Not a victory as we've seen as of late, but still a good points night.
Yeah, it was good. A couple guys behind me had a little misfortune, so I was able to capitalize on that and gain a little bit in the points and see what we're looking like when they get updated.
And and it looks like you should be able to perhaps extend that championship lead you already got. Third place here, I don't know if you consider yourself much a road course driver, but of the top three, we've seen you, of course, great at consistently performing at the ovals, but you came out here tonight. Anything different you felt tonight in the cockpit compared to other events?
Other than turning right a lot, no. About the same as it's been all season. No, I don't consider myself a road course guy at all, but I guess Chicago, maybe I'm a street course guy. I don't know. But yeah, it was good. We had good speed, not great. I just feel like the consistency helped out a lot. Made a couple mistakes, which let Zellner catch me even faster than what he was already catching me. But we had a good little battle there coming out of the last corner on the last lap. I mean, overall, it was a good race. Started third, finished third. Can't complain too much. I think I only hit the wall once. So we'll take that and go to Talladega or wherever we're going next week, Talladega, Daytona, wherever, and see if we can, have a good run there.
Well, you mentioned that. What's up next on the table, Talladega or New Atlanta? We're not going to Daytona again this season, so it's either or, another big track or back down to the fast intermediates.
Well, I'm hoping it's not. I'm hoping it's not Atlanta. I've not been too fond of that track since they changed it. I'd be fine with Talladega. I think everybody else would. We got Throwback Week next week too, so y'all make sure you tune in and see some badass old paint schemes and have a little bit of nostalgia.
And we're, of course, looking forward to it. Super Speedways coming up next. Hoping to have some more fun. Alan coming third here from Chicago. If you have any final shout-outs or messages you'd like to give out, we'd love to hear it.
Yep, just you putting this thing on every week, of course. I always enjoy going and watching them either afterwards or the next day. Everybody who did show up tonight, I know a lot of people, including myself, had to buy this track 5 minutes before we even jumped in. Seemed like for the most part everybody learned it pretty quickly in the 30 minutes that we had. Felt like real life Xfinity practice, I guess. My wife, Scott Puckett, SB Designs. Y'all keep him and his family in your thoughts. He was affected by the floods down in North Carolina last week with hurricane. They're all safe though, so that's good. Yeah, everybody who tunes in, and we'll see y'all next week.
And of course, first and foremost, great to hear what's going on with Scott Puckett and family. Thinking of them who are down in Asheville, North Carolina, to what I understand. Alan Cumming, third place here from Chicago. Thank you again for stopping by.
Thanks, David.
And with Cumming on the move, the SP Designs machines, quite a few in the field, and we almost forgot to mention that. Scott Puckett, SP Designs, Asheville, North Carolina. For them, significant infrastructural damage in the Carolinas and a few other states, including Georgia in the United States. Hopefully, of course, the families received all the medical attention and all else that is necessary. We've seen actually a few NASCAR drivers going down to the area, notably Greg Biffle going out to help those who have not been properly retrieved just yet. So wishing well to all recovery efforts in North Carolina and all those afflicted by the most recent hurricane. SP Designs, another crucial part of the Highline Racing family here, and you can see their driver finished in third. Second place, Roberto Ramirez, and your race winner, Lucas Lodato, dominating the field, getting the job done here in Chicago. The street circuit has been rather kind to Lucas Lodato tonight. It's his second road course win, third career victory here in the Premier Series. And so we move on to what remains. Our second attempt, what of course is going to be street course racing. Well, it's come and gone. Now it's time to go to our second race, a super speedway on the season, and that will be either Talladega or New Atlanta next week. Same time, same place, live as always on FTN. You've been watching exclusive coverage of the Highline Racing League Westlake Royal Building Products Premier Series. We hope to see you back next week as we've been broadcasting live on FTN. I've been David Kreutz, commentating and producing all of tonight's coverage. We hope to see you back for our final few races of the campaign as we move toward the end of October into November. Thank you all for tuning in tonight. If you'd like to join the FTN broadcasting community, make sure to scan the QR code on your screen, and you can find yourself as a member live on FTN of our official Discord. As you can see here, scan the QR code, or, of course, check out the links in our description to join any broadcast league that we cover from Monday through Sunday and everywhere in between. Thank you for tuning in tonight. Congratulations to Lucas Lodato, your race winner from the virtual Chicago Street Course. We hope you have a great night.